Welcome to SVGTV's news for Friday, August 26, 2022. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Minister Kisal Peters has made history today by being the youngest person to be appointed as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. She was sworn in at an official ceremony at Government House, attended by the Governor General, members of Cabinet, and relatives of the newly appointed minister. The announcement of the post was made by Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves during a press conference last Tuesday. The portfolio change will now see the Prime Minister take responsibility for the Ministry of Tertiary Education. In her remarks at the swearing-in ceremony, Minister Peters gave the assurance that the ministry is in good hands.
So I've always held this ministry in high regard because I know the level of work, commitment and dedication that the staff of this ministry would put forward for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it is my honor to lead this ministry as we go forward in what we all acknowledge is a very difficult time in the global history. I want you to rest assured that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is in safe hands. Not just my hands, but the many hands who lift it. As I said, staff, both in St. Vincent and abroad. The people can rest assured that the foreign policy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in safe hands, and it is sound foreign policy. And in the last year and a half, I've learned and I've seen it demonstrated in many instances that St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are unwavering when it comes to our foreign policy. We don't pick and choose when to apply the principles of international law.
Minister Peters says she considers her appointment as Minister of Foreign Affairs a victory for the women and girls of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, considering the former ministers have all been males.
I remembered when I first walked the halls of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade after being appointed in 2020, and consciously realizing that the gentlemen on the wall, we have what I describe as a hall of fame, were all men. And it is not lost on me that we are making history here today. To the women and the young girls of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, today, this historical day, is your day as much as it is mine. Yes. And I want you to be a part of it. I want you to relish in it, and I want you to celebrate what has happened here today.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves says he believes Minister Kisal Peters has proven herself worthy of taking up the appointment of Foreign Minister, adding that cabinet members were in full support of the promotion.
And in consultation with my colleagues, I considered it necessary and desirable to have a young woman understudy the Prime Minister as Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. I looked at several persons and concluded that KMP was the best of an elite group of young women from whom we had to choose, and I invited her to join the government. I have seen her function for the last year and a half plus, and I am satisfied that she has grown in stature, that she deserves to be promoted to full minister as Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Foreign Trade. And this is not only my judgment, but the judgment of her colleagues in cabinet. And as you would notice, everyone is here from the cabinet, save and except Julian Francis, whom we know is currently indisposed because of an illness.
PM Gonsalves notes over the years, Vincentian women have been central to the execution of foreign policy, adding government intends to give priority to interests of women and the youths in the country.
Though the cabinet and the Prime Minister set the contours, the framework, the essence of our foreign policy and our policies in relation to external trade, the execution of the foreign policy and foreign trade policy of our country, and of course very much so in its formulation, reside in the hands overwhelmingly of women, and largely young women. This is an indication of the government's general policy to advance the interests of young people and the interests of women. Two groups which historically have been disadvantaged in public policy and in the execution of public policy.
Governor General Dame Susan Duggan congratulated Minister Peters on her appointment. Dame Duggan, who taught Minister Peters at the Girls' High School, says she is confident in the new foreign minister will make a difference in the international arena.
I know that the minister will use this opportunity to make a difference, not only in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but in the international arena where she has to interface with many distinguished and foreign players. I know she's able because she has the intelligence, the personality, the competence, and those skills that are useful when you meet with counterparts outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not only in the region, but in the where you meet with international players.
In other news now, 10 Coast Guard officers are now better equipped to accurately navigate small boats. This was taught through 4 weeks of basic coxswain course, which came to a close today, August 26th. The course aims to equip, qualify, and certify Coast Guard officers with the requisite knowledge and skills of small boat coxswains. Speaking at the closing ceremony today, Chief Instructor Glasgow says there were 9 participants in the course, including 1 female and 1 leading seaman.
Be able to perform sea survival techniques, operate the different GPS, radars, and radio equipment on board the vessels, perform law enforcement duties, tow watches, be able to coxswain a small boat safely throughout the territorial waters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, perform duties as a search and rescue unit operator, to conduct search patterns, to render first aid in emergency situations, and to lead a team of Coast Guard personnel on any operational related mission within the territorial waters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Glasgow further outlines the activities and subjects that were tackled during the 4-week course.
Anchoring, theory and practical, stability of vessels, maritime communication, GPS and radar, towing procedures, 8 tons, aids to navigation, maneuverboat procedures and drills, survival techniques, boat crew responsibilities, code procedures to include chain of custody, boat handling, navigation, passage planning, basic first aid, search and rescue procedures, theory and practical, international maritime law, rules of the road, concept of operations and operational brief.
The chief instructor says participants performed above average with an overall class average of 82.54%.
Best academics was Abel Seaman Glasgow. He got an average of 92.9%. Best at practicals, Abel Seaman Glasgow with an average of 93.4%. Best at navigation, A.B. Pope with an average of 95%. Best at rules of the road, we had two persons, Lydian Seaman Morris and Adel Seaman Davis. They both got 90%. Best at physical training, Adel Seaman Glasgow. He got an average of 100%. The most outstanding student award went to Adel Seaman Everett Glasgow with an overall average of 92.2%. During this course of training, the instructors performed creditably and they gave a very good account of themselves, as is evident in the results that is shown.
Basic coxswain course participants are being encouraged to use the newly acquired skills to be the best Coast Guard officers that they can be. This encouragement comes from Deputy Commissioner of Police Frankie Joseph. Joseph reminds the participants that their attitude determines their altitude.
Attitude is everything. It's not what you have, because you can be the most educated person. If you do not have good attitude, no one would want to employ you. You would be the force to be employed and also the force to be fired. Graduates, this statement is full of meaning and can serve as a motivating force if correctly applied when you are doing your job. As law enforcement officers and as Coast Guard officers, you must first possess the ability to do the job and then be motivated to do it. And to do it effectively, you must possess the right attitude towards it. You can be the most qualified and capable Coast Guard officer, but your attitudes toward your job and to the people whom you serve can hamper your success and progress within this organization. This is where training and the RSS Training Institute comes in.
The Deputy Commissioner of Police used the opportunity to thank all that made this training course possible, including the RSS headquarters. He said although this course is called a basic course, it was a very challenging course.
Was as intense and comprehensive as any other training course. And it was so tailored because we want you to be able to execute your duties with optimum efficiency at all times. You are graduating here today with a wealth of knowledge and information gained from this course. This newly acquired knowledge will help to guide you when you are performing your duties. My encouragement to you today is to put all that you would have learned over the past 4 weeks of training into practice. If you neglect to implement what you were taught during the practical and theoretical exercises, you not only would fail yourself, but you would fail the Coast Guard who invested in you, and you would fail the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, and more so, you would fail the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Although the COVID-19 travel restrictions for entry into St. Vincent and the Grenadines have been eased, Chief Health Promotions Officer Shanika John is still urging the public to continue to protect themselves from coronavirus. She was speaking on NBC Radio's Face-to-Face program this morning.
If you are going into the supermarket, if you're going into public buildings, government buildings, etc., a mask is still required. So that is something that I want to put out there. The mask mandate is still there. As time goes by, we will continue to review those requirements and update accordingly. But as it is now, it is still a requirement for you to wear a mask. There are some institutions and organizations, because of their high level coverage in terms of vaccination, has removed that particular mask mandate because everybody's vaccinated, appropriately boosted, and so there's sufficient coverage within that space. However, if I am an external person with no interaction and no link into that particular organization and entering that space, then I should wear a mask as well, because I'm not a part of that bubble.
Speaking on mass gatherings, John reminds persons that restrictions have been lifted months ago. However, she warns that the risk of catching COVID-19 still exists. John also clarifies the changes that have been made to the protocols for persons arriving in the country.
Vaccinated 2 weeks prior to your travel date, you can arrive in St. Vincent and the Grenadines without a test, and there is no requirement for you to quarantine. A couple of days ago, we were asking you to come with a test, an antigen or PCR, depending on your travel connection. But now we're asking you no test, no quarantine. But however, based on your symptoms presented or based on indications that the Portals Authority officers will look for, you may be tested on arrival.
Okay.
So that's where the may comes in. I know persons were asking what the may mean, and may are specific indicators, that our Portals team would look for, and then they will determine whether or not you will be tested on arrival. So let's just look at the obvious. If you come in coughing and sniffling, and you look very, fatigued, eye runny nose, runny eyes, etc., that might be an indicator for our Portal team to test you. Understand? So we want people to be mindful of that. If you're unvaccinated, we're asking you to come with a negative PCR test, 72 hours, or an antigen, and you may be tested on arrival as well. So the thing is, a PCR test is still there because we know that we have unvaccinated travelers who are doing
46 individuals are better equipped with knowledge about soil health assessment following a training session conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture. The learning objectives of the training were geared towards participants understanding the nature, properties, and distribution of soils in SVG, defining the concept of soil health, as well as identifying common management practices for enhancing soil health. The training was done on Wednesday and included students of the Community College Division of Technical and Vocational Education, Agriculture Science and Entrepreneurship Program, members of the Women's Group Extension staff, technical colleges, personnel of Plant Protection and Quarantine Unit, members of the staff of Her Majesty's prisons and community groups. It was also supported by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations Technical Cooperation. The training was facilitated by a senior lecturer at the Facility of Food and Agriculture, UWI. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Meteorological Office, the SVG Met, has advised that the tail end of a tropical wave is affecting the islands. A flood watch has been issued from today, August 26th, and remains in effect until Saturday, August 27th at 6 p.m. A flood watch is issued when conditions are favorable for a specific hazard weather event to occur. Weather conditions are forecast to be generally cloudy with occasional pockets of showers, some of which may be moderate to heavy at times, with periods of light rain and isolated thunderstorms. Residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides near rivers and streams should exercise caution.